Hello and welcome to Lakeshore Lanes. We're hanging here in Sheboygan. Van McNeil alongside Phil Brylow for the 3rd annual Sean Yonan Memorial Bowling Tournament. What a great field of action here today.
Well, a full house, 72 bowlers taking to the lanes to raise money for a great cause. The next show you'll see after this one on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel is the Youth Open. This tournament helps raise money for it. Great bowlers in the field, and there's still a chance. We got some action going on right now into the round of 8 before the TV. We might see A.J. Johnson again, so you never know. Always good to get these pros up here for this Sean Yonan Memorial Tournament.
Over $170,000 in scholarships in its 11-year run. The 3rd annual scratch tournament with the adult bowlers. Who are we going to see today? A.J. Johnson you mentioned, but some other locals that are here.
Yeah, they're still pairing it out. We can see over the lanes behind us. We're going to get down to our Final Four shortly. We'll introduce those bowlers before each match.
All right, that's coming up next right here from Lakeshore Lanes in Sheboygan. It is the Sean Yonan Memorial Bowling Tournament here on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel.
Barbier's Italian Inn, featured in onmilwaukee.com's In Search of the Perfect Pizza in January 2013. Near Miller Park on Blue Mound Road and on Milwaukee Avenue in South Milwaukee. Why do we have so many of our televised tournaments at Castle Lanes? Because we love being part of the wild side of bowling. If you're ready to get in touch with your wild side, go to castlelanes.com.
All right, here we go. Van McNeil alongside Phil Brylow as we begin the 2016 Sean Yonan Memorial Open from Lakeshore Lanes here in Sheboygan. Great day of bowling ahead of us, Phil.
Absolutely, and one of the best players here in the Sheboygan area ever to come out. Steve Richter leading things off here on lanes 3 and 4 at Lakeshore Lanes in Sheboygan.
First frame, Sean Yonan 2016, and a Brooklyn strike.
Well, this is a tough lane pattern. This is Dead Man's Curve. It's one of the patterns designed by Kegel Bowling to play like a PBA pattern. This pattern a little longer in length. It's 44 feet in length, so not a lot of back end for these bowlers to play with. We're going to keep the angles pretty closed, and you can see right there a little too closed for Steve, but a good break to start out.
From Sheboygan, we take you down to Racine, Wisconsin, and Tony Oliva in the first frame.
Tony, one of our more prolific bowlers ever to be on our Time Warner Cable Sports Channel shows, and boy, you can see, we just talked about the length of this pattern, Van.
Mm-hmm.
You can see how long it goes for a straighter player like Tony. Ball never wrinkles. Very little back end entry into the pocket. And as you watch the replay here, you can see the head pin just tickles over. It leaves the tough 210 combination.
Yeah, could have been a lot worse. Definitely a makeable spare here for Tony. And look at that. Textbook conversion.
You can't draw it up any better than that. And a big momentum swing for Oliva early with converting that 210. Ball gets to the left side. He's got about a half an inch on that pin to hit properly to slide it over into that 10-pin area.
Any further would definitely have been a miss.
Yeah,
but
he almost overcut it. You can see the 2-pin had to come off that sideboard
right
to take off the 10.
You know, sometimes converting those splits that you get excited, but and look at that, straight through the head pin there and the money ball.
Yeah, the break you really don't want on that combination. Yeah, you get the extra pin account on your spare, but now the 6-pin being out of the way makes that 310 baby split conversion just a bit tougher. I mean, for a player of Tony's caliber, he's probably about 85% on this conversion rate on the baby split.
There's something about controlling your emotions when you pick up a split. You tend to get more excited. Oh, I got a break. I picked that up. Here with the, just a little wide there and taking out the 10-pin.
Yeah, and a little bit of the slide past, the amount of oil that's on the outside of this pattern. That's why you're seeing these bowlers stay very deep around 3rd, 4th arrow for both these players. Steve a little farther left on the approach, obviously, with his difference in rev rate compared to Tony.
Sheboygan's very own Steve Richter here as we move into the second frame. The USBC titleist.
Multiple time with his team, 11thframe.com. And how about that for just smooth, picture-perfect smooth for Steve Richter.
Nice roll off the hand, and looks like he got away with that one a little bit as we look at the replay here. Trip 10.
Yeah, the angle he's coming in at, we see it properly this time as compared to that first frame crossover.
Mm-hmm.
But you see where the 6-pin does the work, ball's in the strong roll going into the pocket, and he has no problem kicking the 10-pin out in that case.
The 4-time Bowlers Journal top bowling coaches. Third frame came up a little high and lucky for a strike.
Yeah, you can see the bowlers are playing lane 4 a little bit tighter, maybe because of the lane topography. The pattern's the same out there, but sometimes the lanes are a little different manufacturing from lane to lane.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely playing tighter on lane 3. And Steve gets the good break on that with the 2-pin going to the sideboard, coming off and tripping out the 4-pin.
Back down to Racine and Tony Oliva. A couple of houses he bowls at. The beautiful Castle Lanes down in Racine. Classic Menominee Falls as well.
And a ball change for Tony. Tries to get a little more back-end angle generated. Does so, but not enough to take the 10-pin out. And we saw Steve shot on that lane. A little more angle. 6 came off the sideboard and took out the 10. As we take a look at the replay here, Tony's 6-pin gets a little lazy. Ball deflects getting into the pocket. Wasn't a strong roll, and therefore the 10-pin stays.
Not your typical house shot here, as many thought, as a typical tournament may provide a house shot. A little bit more challenging here. Should be an easily converted spare here. Of course, the 10-pin with Tony. Yeah, would have taken out the 7 if he had it there.
You never make the 7-10 when they're both up there. You always bounce out when it's just one of them, no doubt. And, yeah, with this whole Sean Yonan Memorial Weekend, our next show here on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel will feature the youth bowlers and the Sean Yonan Memorial Youth Championships. And that's another tough pattern as well. Sean was a fan of the Pro Bowlers Tour before he passed away and was a fan of bowling overall. And the Pro Bowlers Tour bowl on these tough patterns, and that's what these bowlers know they're getting into for this entire weekend up here in Sheboygan.
And that's what attracts some of the greatest bowlers in the land to Sheboygan for this great weekend, as Tony Oliva out of Racine with a solid strike.
Yeah, still finds himself down by quite a bit, by 33 right now, with Richter starting with the first 3 strikes. Watch how strong Tony's ball drives through the pocket that time. No deflection, strong roll.
Finally found it. Sometimes it takes a minute to get there. It could be frustrating, but
And the problem is when you're bowling an opponent the caliber of Steve Richter, you know they're not going to make many mistakes to get you back in the match. You're going to have to start striking a lot if you're Tony Oliva at this point.
not only a USBC certified titleist, but coach as well, a silver coach level, and a solid strike there. 4 in a row now, the ham bone for Mr. Richter.
Yes, indeed, and took advantage of the first frame break, just kept things smooth and patient. You know, breaks are part of bowling. A lot of times, as our friend Joe Serrar says, you only remember the bad breaks you get against you, not the good ones. But Steve, playing off that first frame good break, stayed patient, found himself lined up again.
Let me ask you, Phil, and I don't want to jinx anything, but have we ever had a 300 here on the telecast?
We've had one, but it was an alternate shot doubles format for Motion Plus Lanes and Cuddy. We've never had a singles 300 game, and we do award $300 if we do get a 300 on TV. And another nice shot by Richter, spraying the rack.
We are well on the way. 5 in a row for Steve Richter out of Sheboygan. Got to keep those nerves calm. Got to keep your focus. Little light there, but he got a break.
Yeah, and not only that, Steve wore his high five gear jersey, and all of our bowlers today, regardless of what jersey they're wearing, they strike in that high five gear 5th frame, they get that $25 gift certificate towards a jersey or accessories from High Five Gear.
Came in a little bit high on the head pin there here, Tony Oliva.
High and hot. That was a lot of ball speed for Tony.
Almost a rocket to the pocket.
Yeah, watch that ball just slice right through. No chance of that 2-pin getting to the 4 or 7.
It just shows how precise you have to be on these tougher patterns. There's little room for error.
And you'll see him stay with his strike ball. Not a lot of oil in the middle of this pattern. Relatively flat all the way across. And you can see, even with the revolutions he put on the ball, still had a chance to chop the 4 off the 7. We've seen that a few times in competition. You would think with the angles right-handers use, the ball would take out both pins, but we've seen some chops of 4s off the 7 and 2s off the 4.
It's all about technique and, like you were saying, the angle of how you want to get it there. Do you want to use your first ball, or do you want to use a plastic ball and go directly straight to the pins to knock them out? That's bowler's choice, really.
The high hard one works again, Van.
There it goes. All right, more from Sheboygan. It's the 2016 Sean Yonan Bowling Memorial Classic from Lakeshore Lanes in Sheboygan. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Sheboygan. Lakeshore Lanes is where we're hanging. Van McNeil alongside Phil Brylow for the 2016 Sean Yonan Bowling Memorial Classic.
And Steve Richter, you see his road to the show here, 221.8 average on this tough condition.
Wow.
Qualified in the top 5. Won his 2 matches, 2-game total pin matches, including a tough win over PBA professional A.J. Johnson.
6 in a row for Steve Richter. My goodness.
Halfway home to perfection here at Lakeshore Lanes in Sheboygan. And just want to thank the Hilbert family for everything they've done, not only this year for the Sean Yonan Memorial, but for what they do in youth bowling for Sheboygan year-round as well. They host a couple of the high school teams here, and the Sheboygan South team this year at high school state finished in the top 5, so another good year for Sheboygan South.
Got to see a lot of the high school kids that went to Sheboygan hanging here on the lanes as we spend some time here. A lot of talented kids coming out of the Sheboygan bowling team.
Oh yeah, we'll show a little bit of the Sean Yonan Pro-Am we were part of on the opening night of this weekend. We'll show that during the youth show on our next show on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. How about that? The front 7.
Oh my goodness. On the road to a perfect game, a 307 in a row for Sheboygan Steve Richter.
And just flush in the pocket. He's made that adjustment since the first frame crossover on lane 3. And Tony Oliva knows now it's just get through the match, get as good of a showing as you can do, because this match pretty much done.
Yeah, and Tony's been having some trouble on both lanes and with this pattern overall.
Yeah, and even with the ball change. I mean, somebody like Tony, he was patient during qualifying, waited for the lanes to open up a little bit more, let his ball hook a little bit more into the pocket, get the angle he needed. Now, on this fresh pattern for TV, he can't generate that angle as much as he did earlier in the day, and now he's having some problems with kicking the corners out. Tickles the 7 down for the spare.
There has to be some frustration there in Tony's mind, but stay the course, be the best you can, because you don't know when Steve might open the door.
Yeah, you can see the difference in qualifying average here for Tony. 5 pins less than Steve Richter during qualifying, but got through a tough match in the round of 8 to get the TV against Trevor Yonan, Sean Yonan's brother, to get to this show. And now Tony looking to put his strike on the board here on this left lane again, and he can't do it. Very similar to his last shot.
Yet again, I was looking at the Storm jersey he was wearing there, Phil. Is that Nebraska I'm looking at?
That's where he went to college, University of Nebraska, and he was part of a national championship collegiate bowling team. While he was there, he's always proud of his Husker heritage from his college days.
You know, it goes to show that, one day a champion, the other day you're struggling, just like anybody else would.
We've seen Tony win on TV before. Him and Greg Thomas a few years back at our Action Heating and Cooling alternate shot doubles were the champions of that event. So we know Tony can win on TV. He's been on TV quite a few times. He's running into a buzzsaw today. If you think about it right now, if Tony only had 1 bad shot through the game, he'd still be behind with Steve perfect through 7.
Sheboygan's Steve Richter, here from Lakeshore Lanes in Sheboygan, going for 8 in a row.
Looks solid out of the hand, Van.
Almost got stuck with that 10 pin. Was able to trip it out. 8 in a row, Phil. My goodness.
And that's just the strong roll that Richter's able to generate through the pocket, proper entry angle, and the 6 does the job on the 10, and 4 shots away from perfection and that $300 award for a perfect game on TV, and also already locked up his bid in the championship match. He'll be taking on the winner of the second semifinal between Andy Mills and Ben Pallardy.
Yeah, mathematically, Tony Oliva from Racine has been eliminated, but the focus here, a 300 game, going for 9 in a row. Steve Richter from Sheboygan. Oh my, and it got away from him.
That's just pushing it right. We talked about the amount of oil in this dead man's curve pattern. Once the ball got out to the right, no chance to recover.
And he knows it too. He knows it too. He's smiling as the ball gets away from him, and he looks at 8 and look at the release from the get-go. As most bowlers know, Oh boy, you know you're in some trouble there.
And if it was a house pattern with not a lot of oil on the outside, maybe that ball would have came back in a house shot. No way on this dead man curve pattern, similar to very many PBA patterns out there.
Very exciting nonetheless. The front 8 for Steve Richter, sitting at a 243 in the 9th, with the focus back to Racine's Tony Oliva. Looking for a strike, and cannot trip out that 10-pin.
No, the corners, Tony's problem this game, and he tried a couple different balls, can't make it work. Still not a bad day up here at the Sean Yonan Memorial. He's going to take home $425 for his third place finish here. Both bowlers losing in the semifinal, getting third place money.
I'm sure Tony and his wife Jenny will do something fun down in Racine.
I'm sure they do a lot of vacationing. They recently I took a trip up to the Upper Peninsula to watch some dog sled racing as well.
The dog sled? What? Really?
Yeah, him and his wife are Husky or Malamute owners. I can't remember which particular breed, but definitely a dog sled racing breed, and they've been fans of them for years.
Oh, that is great. I know the Iditarod just wrapped up in Alaska not too long ago. I'm sure Tony is well aware here as he wraps up things in the 10th frame.
Yeah, we're going to let these bowlers kind of fast track through the end of the match. Another ball change for Tony, and of course, when it doesn't matter, you make a ball change. All 10 fall. The high five from Steve Richter for that shot as they kind of get a chuckle about Tony's ball change.
Every frame matters, Phil. Regardless if you've lost the match or not, you want to put your best foot forward here.
Well, and here's Steve trying a different ball. Good thing to do because he's going to get a break during the second semifinal. See what a ball reaction will do when you change. And there's his answer.
Oh my goodness.
Definitely a ball that was more aggressive, earlier rolling, and through the nose for the Greek church.
Right, bringing a smile to Tony's face, but Steve, the winner of this match, nonetheless. There we go, another strike for Racine's Tony Oliva.
Splashing the double, but Steve Richter advancing into the championship match. Still looking to get that $1,000 that's on top of the prize list today, Van.
So Sheboygan's Steve Richter advances to the next round, as Steve was saying. He will sit for our next match, and coming up, Lacrosse versus Kentucky?
Kentucky, yes indeed. Andy Mills, Ben Pallardy coming back from Lakeshore Lanes in Sheboygan after this short break.
And welcome back to Lakeshore Lanes here in beautiful Sheboygan. Van McNeil alongside Phil Brylow for the 2016 Sean Yonan Memorial Open. Semifinal match 2, Phil. What are we looking at here?
Well, the always well-dressed, coordinated Andy Mills out on the lanes. Third year in a row he's made the TV finals here for the Sean Yonan Memorial Open. And as he stalks his way to the line, gets the break, tripping the 4-pin out.
A very unique approach and delivery here for Mr. Mills from La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Yes, indeed, and always well dressed on the lanes, and he'll travel a lot of places to go bowl. He had a solid college career, and boy, another player. Talk about traveling here, Van.
Lexington, Kentucky. Ben Pallardy. The two-hander, and straight through the head pin.
And that's what the high-speed, high-rev game can sometimes do to you with an errant shot. Slices through the nose, takes out the 1, 2, 5, 7, and 8 pins, leaving the 3, 4, 6, 9, 10. Odds of converting this, even with his entry angles and rev rates, about 1%.
Possible? Ooh, nothing came out of the pit there. An open first frame for Ben Pallardy out of Lexington, Kentucky. That amazes me, making the trip all the way up here to Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Well, some of his teammates from Lindenwood University bowled this event over the weekend, either the youth tournament that you'll see next here on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel or this Memorial Open today. And Ben up here with his Lindenwood teammates, riding it up through the field.
That is pretty. The revs that come off a two-handed bowler's ball into the pocket, that is a pretty strike, Phil.
Yeah, and more you see these younger players going to that two-handed style because they can generate the speed and revolutions with these powerful
reactive resin bowling balls to kick out corner pins that us mere mortals like you and I, Van, aren't able to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Pretty mix here from Andy Mills from La Crosse. And again, that unique style. Phil, I had the opportunity to bowl in this field of 72, and I was paired up next to Andy and was really looking at how he bowls here and his release. It all times out in the end as unique as his approach is.
Well, if you watch his form here, the first 2 steps are just basically for his timing, and he's basically a 3-step delivery bowler. 1, 2, 3 when the ball starts moving. And he made a ball change on that shot. For some reason, I mean, you crept high, 4-pin, 4-pin.
Mm-hmm.
But to go to something that's less aggressive, and especially we've seen lane 3 playing tighter all day, I would have thought simply a move of feet and target could have helped with the 4-pin trip.
Must have found something in practice, something that he didn't like in ball reaction, and made that change, and now he's paying the price.
Well, and now he's back to his original ball that he used for his first 2 strikes, and you can see the amount of angle the ball is having on the back end as he picks up the 1, 2, and 8. He knows that if he goes through the nose, he might leave a designer split like we saw Ben Pallardy do in the first frame. So Andy trying to avoid that with a ball with a little less entry angle, and unfortunately for Andy, never got to the head pin on this lane pattern.
It's about finding that sweet spot for Andy Mills. But back to Lexington, Kentucky, and Ben Pallardy, a solid strike in the 3rd frame.
Well, a big double, and gets himself back close to even in this match. Another strike, he would take the lead. And you can see that ball right through the 7 and 9, the last 2 pins to go. You see that a lot with these power players, with the ball slicing through the pin deck. We see solid 9s and solid 7s quite often nowadays.
It's jaw-dropping to watch. Oh my goodness, it's jaw-dropping to watch that. I was saying to watch a 2-handed bowler strike and watch that pit of pins explode. What happened here?
Just got it out to the right, easily missed by, probably, if you asked him, probably close to an arrow, probably close to 5 boards. You see well over his feet. He knew it out of his hand. It was trouble. We respotted all 10 pins. That pin that fell out of the gutter doesn't count. And boy, you lose that 10 pins of count though with that first gutter ball on a double. And instead of being within a mark of Andy Mills, he now finds himself almost 20 pins behind.
Converted the spare. It could have been way more disastrous for Ben Pallardy. But back home here to La Crosse and Andy Mills in the 4th frame.
Back to his original bowling ball. Gets it up there, and once again
gets lucky. Wow.
The trip 4, he's going to need to do something very quick, especially when you have a high-rev player as your opponent like Ben Pallardy. He knows the oil at the end of this 44-foot pattern is going to be going away, and he needs to make sure that he holds pocket. So we'll see if Andy makes the move with his feet here. On this left lane, you can see, yep, he's kind of shuffling his feet a little farther to the left.
Making that move. 5th frame here. Andy Mills out of La Crosse.
Left the target.
And pays the price. Comes straight through the head and leaves the 6, 7, 9, 10 split.
Well, at least the good news for Andy is the angle that he used to get through the pin deck left the 9 pin there, so it makes it much easier than a 6, 7, 10 to make. You can bounce the 6 pin off the front of the 9, slide it over into the 7 pin. Probably about a 50-50 chance for Andy on this spare.
Oh my goodness. It almost goes back to the ball change that he made, and a little bit of a guessing game as transition is going on here. Looks like more on lane 3 than on lane 4.
Definitely. Lane 3 playing tighter as it is, so their angles are much straighter through the front part of the lane. And with that, the amount of back-end reaction these bowlers are generating with these bowling balls. And you see there, almost the same shot he had in the first frame on that lane.
I believe that is the identical split left to the first frame. That is, what is that? Oh my goodness.
3, 4, 6, 9, and 10. Ball only contacts 4 pins going through the pin deck, the 1, 2, 5, and 8. And Ben Pallardy knows once again, he's going like, is this Groundhog Day?
Right. Rare to do it once, but to do it twice and on TV, let's convert it this time. Unfortunately, no.
Yeah, the tough part is taking out that 9 pin on that spare and having enough angle to slide the 3 into the 4. Very rare that spare is ever converted.
The more you watch two-handed bowlers, the more you go, huh? What kind of a split is that? I've never seen that before.
Yeah, you see a lot of combinations with the 3 and 4 pin involved when the high rev players go through the nose.
Oh my goodness, the wrap 10 just couldn't knock it out. It is pretty looking at that ball going down the lane, the rev rate, and then when it hits the pins, I was talking about it earlier, that pit explodes. Look at that pin action everywhere.
It's hard to believe that pin that can go that fast goes around the 10, makes no contact with it at all, but I don't see Ben Pallardy making any type of move on that lane when he's up again after the commercial break.
Is it rather a hand adjustment or a lane adjustment?
He won't do a thing, I guarantee. When we come back, Van, he'll be on that same spot on the lane, no doubt about it.
More from Sheboygan coming up here on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. Welcome back to Lakeshore Lanes here in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, the 2016 Sean Yonan Memorial Open. Andy Mills from lacrosse here in the 7th frame.
The Natalie dressed Andy Mills, as always.
Team Brunswick, the lime green pants and the unbelievable split.
Comes off of going through the nose in the 5th frame. Left that big wide open 6, 7, 9, 10. Now he makes an over adjustment coming back out of the commercial break. And lucky to get the 8 pin out. Makes the spare a little easier to make with just the 2, 4, and the 10. But still, this is a big tide change in the match. He had a 20-pin lead 2 frames ago. That lead could be gone now if he cannot convert this spare.
Tough one to convert, but makeable. And unfortunately, no.
Well, right now, he's up by less than a mark against Ben Pallardy. And you can see right now, Andy Mills going back to the bowling bag, and it's time for another change.
Eek.
He's done with that reaction out of that first bowling ball. See, he's gone to a Brunswick Mastermind there, averaged 227.8 in qualifying.
What a high average here in qualifying, my goodness.
And a couple of tough matches, had to average over 220 in each of his matches to advance to the TV show.
Pretty coming off the hand, and the reaction maybe that he was looking for.
A lot tamer the last 16 feet where that ball is hitting the dry. Eases into the pocket a little bit more. Watching the replay as the ball packs the pocket, 6 off the sideboard. Well, the 10 was out even before that, so...
You would think, Phil, the oil would carry down a little bit on this pattern, but it tends to be doing the opposite.
It's so light the last couple of feet on the pattern that the bowling balls actually absorb the oil as they roll through it, track through it, and it makes the ball hook a little bit more on the back end, so they get early hook and then late hook with it, but if they get it right or left, they get a little slide. So it gets very touchy as the pattern moves on.
And then you have a two-handed bowler in Ben Pallardy, and that's a factor as well, as the PBA Tour calls it, the Belmo effect.
Yes, indeed. And you can see Ben Pallardy there defeated our number 2 seed, Chad Kloss, in the round of 16. And once again, that outside amount of oil on this dead man's curve pattern. Well, if you try to curve it a lot, you're a dead man, and right
Absolutely.
there, 3 count. The good news for Ben, though, is it's on a strike, so he doesn't lose count like if he was on a spare or on a double as he was earlier this game when he threw a gunner ball on the same lane.
That was a good match with Chad Kloss getting to here and this match, and that should have been the first ball, converts the spare.
And you can see it was easily just a target mistake. He gets a little amped up with the speed. He misses 3 or 4 boards to the right. No chance for that ball to come up no matter what kind of speed or rev rate you have on this pattern.
All right, lacrosse's very own Andy Mills here in the 8th frame. His wife, Lindsay, his 3rd year in a row here at the Sean Yonan Memorial Open.
On TV, good friends with the Yonan family, bowls with Trevor Yonan in tournaments, part of the Nicholas J's Pro Shop National USBC Team Champions in 2012 for Trevor Yonan and Andy Mills.
And you mentioned earlier that Andy would travel anywhere to bowl. He did the Winnipeg Open?
Manitoba, yeah.
Oh, the Manitoba Open, yeah.
Went to Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada in February. It's a little chilly for bowling that time of the year.
But looking over some of the scores here, as he converts, misses the spare. My goodness.
Ben Pallardy's got to be sitting on the bench right now going, my goodness, I've had 2 5-count splits, a gutter ball on a double, and a 3 count.
And I'm in the lead in this match now.
Oh my goodness. The door has opened and Ben Pallardy has walked through it. Thank you, Andy Mills from Lacrosse. Not over yet. He can bounce back here in the ninth.
Yeah, still 190 maximum out there for Andy Mills if he can strike out.
And comes up heavy high through the head pin.
And now it's just maybe a bit of the nerves coming into play. But Andy Mills high his last 2 shots in a row, and after missing a 3-6-10, now shooting at the same spare, the nerves are going to be into play even more.
Absolutely, but he has the experience. As we mentioned, the Manitoba Open earlier, and he finished 11th out of a large field, out of a field of 30.
Well, the good news for Andy Mills is that he's still in this match, even with 3 opens in his last 5 frames. The bad part is that Ben Pallardy can step up here and shut out Andy Mills. If Pallardy can strike in the 9th and get the first one in the 10th.
Pallardy out of the bowling powerhouse, Lindenwood University.
That was a powerhouse strike right there, no doubt about it. 3-pin lead, can extend it to 13 if he gets the first shot in the 10th to get all 10 to go.
We got ourselves a little bit of a match here.
Well, Andy Mills right now, his maximum, 180 if he strikes out in the 10th. If Ben gets the first one in the 10th and goes 9 spare, Ben would be at 182. So this first one is huge for Pallardy.
Light and not lucky.
And that was a little interesting on the entry angle. I'm not sure if he got his fingers out of the ball with the rotation he was looking for. You watch the pinfall here, the head pin goes to the sideboard and just really didn't do much on the 2-4-5.
He may have missed target a little bit. The ball grabbed a little late, but should be able to convert the single pin here.
Well, a spare here and a strike would give him 173. That's going to force Andy Mills to double in the 10th frame to advance. Andy would have to go double 4 to get to 174. So no matter what here, count, unless Ben, of course, we have to say, you usually say count's irrelevant. Not with Ben Pallardy right now, unfortunately, with 3 first ball counts of 5 or less this game, including a gutter ball. So he's going to really make sure he keeps this on target line. Needs at least 7 pins to force Andy Mills to double.
Yeah, a solid strike for Ben Pallardy, the hammer advisor. Nothing hits like a hammer.
And that ball definitely hit like one there. And Andy Mills looks like he's making another ball change. Kind of nothing to lose at this point in the match going in the 10th frame. Needs to throw 2 in a row here in the 10th and get 4 pins to advance to the championship match. Steve Richter waiting in the wings right now.
His 3rd year on TV here in Sheboygan. Can he advance? Andy Mills from Lacrosse. Solid pocket shot.
And you could just see, knows that ball reaction was tame when he threw that ball back in the 3rd frame. He missed the head pin. He knows he can play much tighter with that bowling ball in his hand than the other ones he had in the bag. And now Andy Mills, 1 shot to advance to the championship match.
Nervous here in the booth, Phil. It's that pressure situation. I can't imagine what he's going through on the lanes.
Well, we've seen Andy Mills be clutch on TV before, Junior Hall of Fame tournament. He's a former winner of that with youth bowlers as well, and that's when, yes, these players are the most nervous bowling with somebody else.
Oh my goodness. Missed target and got away from him.
Amped up the speed a little bit to go with it, Van, and that is going to end the match, and we're going to have to...
Oh my goodness.
We're going to get to our championship match here in just a moment. It's going to be Ben Pallardy and Steve Richter from Lakeshore Lanes in Sheboygan.
All right, Kentucky versus Sheboygan? Yes! Next here on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Lakeshore Lanes here in beautiful Sheboygan. Van McNeil alongside Phil Brylow for the championship match here at the 2016 Sean Yonan Memorial Open.
And you got to look right now, you got to look at Steve Richter as the favorite, coming off a game in the 250s in his semifinal match. Had the pocket the first 8 frames. Ben Pallardy, lots of struggles in his semifinal match against Andy Mills.
Pretty release, a little high, but gets a break there. Almost had the split.
Yeah, and we've seen that with Steve with his entry angle all day. The way he's got that ball coming in on the back end, When he's in the pocket, he's kicking corners out. When he's a little bit off pocket, such as that case, he gets something to take, in that case, the 9 and the 10 out. Should be a relatively easy spare.
Got to shake off that break between games.
Yeah, he was able to stay on the sidelines, stay loose during the second semifinal match. He received some practice coming back on the pair.
But under the TV lights, you know.
And the nerves, too. I mean, this is the championship. There's $1,000 on the line on this match. It's $650 for second place today. I know Steve wants to buy a few extra craft beers here in Sheboygan.
And Ben, on the other hand, needs some gas money because he's driving back to Lexington, Kentucky. Made the trip all the way up here to Sheboygan. Comes on the Brooklyn side.
That was just left all the way. There was no other way to put it. He amped it up. First shot. You're bowling for a championship. And these college kids are used to bowling with their teammates in a lot of cases. You got somebody to help pick you up and help keep you sighted in. There's a couple of his Lindenwood teammates in the background, including Brad Sislewich, who we almost saw in a couple of events earlier this year.
The money ball conversion and open, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and once again, that oil on the outside of this dead man's curve pattern, 44 feet in length, fools the bowlers on a right side spare. And we saw that with Andy Mills slide by. We saw that now with Ben Pallardy sliding by on the right side. And, Ben's got to just not worry about it. If you're going to open a frame in a game, make it the first one, you still have a 279 chance out there.
Bowling on the dead man's curve oil pattern and gets away from him again.
The mental overcorrection. I just pulled the shot. I'm going to make sure I get it out to the right. He does with his ball speed. And the way that lane 3 has been playing tighter all day, ball doesn't have a chance to recover.
Right.
6 pin around the 10. Head pin can't do any damage because of the angle on the 2 and the 4.
Ben Pallardy out of Lexington, Kentucky. Converting the 2-4-10.
Only gets one. Usually this time of the game, you want to make sure you get the pin count, stay close.
Back-to-back opens. To open with that, though.
Yeah, he's already going back and talking to a couple people back there to see maybe if they saw something in the front part of the lane that Ben didn't see with his own eyes. Get the close-up look here. Lane level on Steve Richter. Smooth.
Pretty release. But miss of target came in right through the head pin.
And the 6-10. Choppable spare anytime you leave more than one. Mistakes can be made. Watch that ball. Enter angle, though. Gets the 4 to come off the sideboard. Take out the 7 pin and break up the split.
Sheboygan's very own Steve Richter, a 4-time Bowler's Journal top bowling coach. He's a USBC Silver certified coach and multiple titleist.
And you see he uses one of the thumb inserts so you can switch from bowling ball to bowling ball to get the same feel from shot to shot. And that needs some help.
Oh my goodness. An open. What is going on here? The third open of this match.
I think these bowlers just haven't shot at that many right side spares today, especially on the fresh condition here. They expect the ball to start hooking early in the front part of the lane and then smooth out. Well, there's still enough oil with only a few games being bowled on it where it can get down the lane easy. And with the oil on the outside, this dead man curves pattern, it's not going to hook back from outside of 4th, 5th, 6th board.
A good bowler bounces back. You make the corrections. You relax. Look at that pretty release. Look at that right there.
Yeah, and Storm, Rotogrip have had Steve Richter as a staff member for quite a few years now. And he's got that Storm rocket rocking the pocket right now. See that ball turn and face up? You can see that camera is about 40, right at the end of the oil pattern, about 44 feet down the lane. So you can see the ball gets a little past the end of the oil pattern, starts to make its hook back into the pocket, nice and easy. And Steve got all 10 down on that shot.
To Kentucky now, and Ben Pallardy with a beautiful pocket strike.
When you split the 8 and the 9, that is what every PBA player, that is what every good college player, every solid amateur player is looking for. When that ball goes through on the back end, watch that ball split the 8 and the 9. Yeah, that's exactly
That's all it is, my goodness.
It's like a nuclear weapon going through those 10 pins when you're splitting the 8 and the 9.
I told you earlier, Ben was part of Team Hammer. He's had one career 300 for Lindenwood University. 1-800. Came in high on the head pin and got a break, Phil.
That's where high revs and speed will help you out once in a while. You or I would have left the big 4 on that shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ben Pallardy, watch that ball come through. 2-pin off the sideboard. Plenty of juice to take out the 4 and the 7. 6-pin takes out the 10.
If we attempted that kind of rev rate, our hand would still be in the ball. Sheboygan's very own Steve Richter here in the 4th frame.
Looking for a double.
Finds it. Pretty.
Keeps himself in the lead with that shot. Up by 10 pins. Going into our high 5 gear 5th frame once again. High 5 gear with the $25 gift certificate for a gorgeous jersey such as what Steve's wearing or any of the apparel they have at high5gear.com.
Some good looking stuff there at high5gear.com.
A lot of players in the Sean Yonan Memorial Field today and yesterday in the youth event sporting their high 5 gear jerseys.
Steve Richter in the 5th. Oh no. Oh no.
Not enough of a break to get the 10 pin out that time as we saw him do in the 1st frame. I think he was just a hair slow on the speed. Look at that ball turn up. He's a little left the target as well. And you're talking a board or 2 error and maybe a half-mile-an-hour in ball speed error altogether on this tough dead man's curve pattern to have a strike pocket go away and become a split.
Still could salvage and convert the split here, as tough as it is. Ooh, almost.
Gave it a run. Make sure he picked up the count, though. You don't want to give away too many pins to your opponent. But now Ben Pallardy on the bench takes the lead and can extend that lead if he can strike here in the high 5 gear 5th frame.
Looking for 3 in a row. Ben Pallardy out of Lexington, Kentucky. Made the drive up here to Sheboygan. The 2-handed bowler. Look at that rev rate. Pretty strike again.
Takes the lead on the bench. Comes back from a couple of errant shots early on. Gets a good break in the 4th frame. Takes advantage of it in frame 5. And I may have to follow Ben out of town to whatever gas station he's filling up at and buy a couple of lottery tickets. He's catching breaks in the right places today. And sometimes as a bowler, you have to do that to stay close in a match.
That's part of the game. Sometimes you're going to land on left of target or right of target, depending upon what side you bowl. You're going to have to accept those breaks. A strike is a strike. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Unbelievable pin action. Ben Pallardy, we're in Sheboygan. More great pin action, more great bowling. Look at this. Don't go anywhere. Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. Welcome back to Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Lakeshore Lanes is the place. $1,000 on the line here for the 2016 Sean Yonan Memorial Open. One of Sheboygan's very own, Steve Richter here in the 6th frame, looking to bounce back from an open in the 5th, Phil.
Yeah, Steve down 25 pins right now thanks to that open and his opponent's 4-bagger. But the consummate professional that Steve Richter is bounces back with a strike out of the break.
Just goes to show that the match is never over. You have to bounce back, and like you said, you have to be professional.
We've seen 30, 35, 40-pin leads erased in a couple of frames. We saw Andy Mills in the semifinal match against Ben Pallardy lose a 25-pin lead in 2 frames with bad counts and open frames.
Phil, earlier we were talking about Steve Richter and the thumb inserts that he uses. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, they're just made so you can get the same feel from ball to ball. It's easy with finger inserts. Those usually stay the same. But if you got to shape your thumb hole a little bit of a different way, by being able to interchange those thumbs from bowling ball to bowling ball, it gets the same feel, especially if you're going between a urethane ball and a resin ball, or a plastic ball, if you use a plastic ball for spares, and a resin ball, because plastic and urethane are usually a little more slippery. Well, this way you have the same feel from shot to shot. I've been using them for years, and I would not bowl without them anymore.
Whereas I have a traditional drilling and have been thinking about going to the thumb inserts here. Ben Pallardy out of Kentucky and a solid strike for Ben.
Let's just be like Ben and not use the thumb. Then we don't have to worry about the interchangeable thumbs. But
absolutely.
Ben, another great shot, gets his string out to 5 in a row and his lead back out to 25 pins.
in this championship match, looking to extend it to 35 if he can get it his string here out to the half dozen.
From thumb inserts to two-handed bowlers, and technology continues to evolve, and even drillings for the two-handed bowlers now. New styles to bring even more pin action, that like we just saw there from Ben.
He doesn't need more pin action. When you get the 10 pin to go before the messenger even gets there, Ben has found it. Whatever struggles he had early on, he blocked them out of his mind, sitting on the half dozen right now, but he's not in control of this match yet. Steve Richter can still put pressure on. Steve still with a great chance to win this match if Pallardy makes a mistake.
Richter with a mistake in the fifth here. Staying solid, looking for another strike, and that's 3 in a row now for Steve.
That's the difference in this match right now, Van. The fifth frame. Steve Richter on a double, throws a 4-7-10, opens, gets another 4-3 after that, and that's the 20-some pin lead that Pallardy has, was thanks to the open Richter gave him in the fifth frame.
But, like any professional, the match is never open. Anything can happen with Ben Pallardy. Anything can happen here with Steve looking for another strike.
Yeah. 232 the maximum for Richter, 257 the maximum for Pallardy. So right now this would force Pallardy to get up and throw a couple more strikes to lock up the match.
Pretty strike from Sheboygan, Steve Richter.
Handbone!
Yes.
There it is for our friend Rob
handbone.
Stone. So Rob's still a good friend of the PBA Tour. He still watches, even though he's doing soccer
doing
now.
the soccer
Doing
over
the
there
soccer.
on Fox.
And but he still keeps in touch with some of the guys on the PBA Tour. Good to know. And boy, a guy needs to keep in touch with the pocket right now to maintain his lead. Ben Pallardy.
Absolutely, possibly the future of the PBA here. He has found it, Phil.
The lucky 7 in a row. And that lets Ben Pallardy step up first ball of the 10th frame. If he strikes, he's going to take home the Sean Yonan Memorial Open title and the $1,000 first place prize. That'll buy like 2 books for him back at Lindenwood University.
Sure, absolutely. The bowling powerhouse that is Lindenwood University down there in Missouri. For $1,000, needs to strike all of them. Winner, chicken dinner.
That is just perfectly solid in the pocket. You can't ask a young player to step up in that situation and throw the ball any better. Forget about the gutter ball he threw in the semifinal in that lane. Forget about the 3 count he threw in the semifinal in that lane.
Forget about the 2 opens he had up front, Phil.
8 in a row, looking for the 9th in a row right now. The mark of a champion.
Absolutely. Pretty release out of his hands, the two-handed bowler, and just, again, the pit of pins exploding.
You know, and we saw a couple of players make ball changes earlier with Andy Mills, Tony Oliva, didn't work. We saw Steve Richter, and we've seen Ben Pallardy here stay with the same ball all day long. Just make target adjustments, just make speed adjustments. And, you know, Steve Richter's got to be thinking to himself, boy, I shoot 230 here. I thought I'd win this match. But Ben Pallardy got hot at the right time, looking for 257.
Pretty game. A 257 for Lexington, Kentucky's Ben Pallardy. He is your 2016 Sean Yonan Memorial Open champion.
Yes, indeed. And Steve Richter was looking to keep this title here in Sheboygan. But second place money, $650, not too bad. Plus, these bowlers raised over $3,000 towards the Sean Yonan Memorial Youth Championships scholarships that were going to be awarded over this weekend as well. So you got to thank all 72 players, including you, Van.
Absolutely.
It was
an honor to bowl. And over the 11 years of the tournament, Phil, over $170,000 in scholarship funds raised. It is quite the event and quite the honor to be a part of it.
And something tells me that there's going to be a lot of good bowling on those youth championship matches that you'll have on the next show here on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel for the Sean Yonan Memorial Weekend. And I can't wait to call the action on those matches with you, Van.
It's going to be a lot of fun, but for now, it is Lexington, Kentucky's Ben Pallardy. Remember that name, Ben Pallardy. He is your 2016 Sean Yonan Memorial Open champion. Steve Richter here from Sheboygan giving it a great effort. Visit him over there at Odyssey, Odyssey Fun Center.
Elite Bowling Pro Shop inside Odyssey Fun Center in Sheboygan Falls.
All right, 257, 211. That's going to do it here from Sheboygan on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. Van McNeil alongside Phil Brilo wrapping up a great day of action here at Lakeshore Lanes in Sheboygan for the 3rd annual Sean Yonan Memorial Bowling Tournament.
You know, and the best part about this event is not only do we have big winners today on the lanes, this tournament also raises money for the next tournament we're going to see on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel, the Sean Yonan Memorial Youth Championships. 4 divisions of bowling, high school boys and girls, college boys and girls. The action once again from Lakeshore Lanes is going to be awesome on our next show, Van.
Fast-paced, non-stop from Lakeshore Lanes here in Sheboygan for Phil Brilo and the entire crew here. Thanks for watching. Next time around, it's all about the kids here on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel.